Good morning from a very rainy and thunderstorm-plagued part of Tennessee. My name is John Rawls. I am the owner of Kavanaugh Media, and with partners such as GMPI that are helping me put this show on, I just want to welcome you to it. Thank you for being a part of the Christian Media Marketing Show. Now, this is a live training that is designed for those of you who are small mission teams, small churches. It's not that the information itself doesn't work if you're a mega church or a massive organization. The purpose is that I want to always look at it from the small team with the limited budget, because everything else will apply as you go out there. But a lot of times there's solutions that people have that, well, they just exclude those who maybe don't have all the resources that the large groups, teams, or churches might have. And so in this live training, this is also an opportunity for me to be able to continue to update the training that we provide at our Kavanaugh Media and on our Kavanaugh Media website. We have training videos then that have been shared with Kingdom.Training, but truthfully, those are becoming old and the information continues to change on those. And so we are doing this show so that we can put out the most recent information. The subject we're going to be looking at and continuing to look at today is Google Analytics, and that's a good example of one that's continuing to change. As we look at the world of analytics, well, Google has introduced a brand new tool called Google Analytics 4. And so just social media marketing itself continues to evolve, it continues to change. And so for us, this is the easiest way to continue to update our training and to answer the questions that you all have. Now, if you're watching this live and you want to drop in an emoticon, give us a little thumbs up or whatever, or tell us where you're watching from, fantastic. I would love that. If you have questions, if you have any kind of comments that you want me to try to address live during the show today, put those in the comments as well. I hope that is working right. The software that we use is supposed to pull all the comments and to aggregate those in from the different YouTube channels and Facebook channels, so hopefully that's working. If for some reason you put a question on there and I don't answer it, I'm not ignoring you, all right? So just make sure, just send us a message and we'll try to address it live on the show itself. If this is your first time watching, we try to answer questions at the beginning, do a little bit of live training then after that point of time. And so we're going to jump into some questions that people have had in the beginning part of this show. But if you have some other ones, make sure that you put those in the comments as you're watching. Now, I know, because I've heard from many of you, that you're actually watching this later on, that at 10 o'clock, actually 10:02, on Tuesdays is not the optimum time for you. I get that. We are working with teams literally all around the world, and so when it's daytime here, it may not be there for you. We put every one of these live trainings, we link those on our Kavanaugh Media training area. So you can go back there, and if you watch and if you have questions, reach out to us and we'll try to address those. Here's what I want to tell you even before we get any further into this today. I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. There are things that we as a business, as mission face that we're like, I don't know what to do on this. I would say that there's not a lot of things that are shocking to me where I just didn't see them coming, but that doesn't mean that I always have the right answers. And so there's a lot of what we do where it's like, okay, I think this is right, or this is what we're seeing. And yet it changes. And sometimes what we need to do changes. One of those is in the area with just the pixel itself. iOS 14.5 has come out. The changes to the algorithm and to the pixels, those were already baked in anticipation for that. And so there's things that we're seeing where we don't know all the answers to it. There's issues that come into when you're working overseas. If you're in Europe, it's completely different than you're in other places, okay? And so I'm pulling from 160, 170 different accounts that we are working in and helping run, or at least have access to their data. And so I'm pulling from all of that. We're experimenting ourselves. And so that's why I try to share on this show what we're learning. But I just feel the need always to say, first of all, this is not a magic bullet. It's not that you just run a couple ads and all of a sudden you have hundreds of people who are ready to be baptized. In fact, I think this is going to be a long grind. This is a long-term thing, 6 months, a year into it. In fact, I'll tell you this, even before we jump into the questions. I was on a call with Alan, who's a part of our Kavanaugh media team, and one of the ministries that he was working with, they are a media group working with college campuses. And they actually are just going out and working, trying to talk to people, and you have an iPad. They'll sometimes show some media right there. I love their heart. I love what they're doing. What social media marketing allows us to do is to be in 1,000 different places, talk to 1,000 different people. Even when you're sleeping, your ads can still be working. That's the scope and the scale of what it is that we're doing. But it's not a magic bullet. It isn't something where you just run a few ads and then you're done. Okay? In fact, if anything, it's going to get harder. So please hear me on that. It is going to get harder. If you're just getting started, you're going to have more technical issues with getting verified possibly. So I don't want to market this as some just amazing thing that's just going to fix everybody's problems and millions are going to come to faith. But what I will tell you is this. Where I used to work as a missionary, we've been running ads and testing there. And we're over 5% of the people right now who are seeing an ad that has gospel content to it is clicking on it to go see more information, to see more Christian media. The scale of that is more than I could ever do physically. So I believe it, and I believe that it works. But please hear me that everything you're hearing on this show is just a part of a long-term strategy. Okay? And yeah, it's going to take time. And maybe you're getting traffic and not seeing messages. There's some reasons to that. We've got to figure out our audience, and we've got to figure out then what message to them. And we have to do it in such a way where they would want to message us, that there's a reason to message us. And we're going to talk about that specifically here just in a couple weeks, even in this training. Okay? So let's get to a couple of the questions that have been given to me. And here's the first one. Should we like our own pages or have our friends like them, or even just our post that we do? All right. This is a little bit funny to me because I immediately know of people who are going to hear my answer and go, no, he's wrong. No, I've done this and I know this. All right. This is a classic example of hundreds of accounts now, and talking to people behind the scenes about this very subject. You and I are not fooling Facebook when we use our same computer, same Mac ID, same IP address, everything else, to like things or whatever else on that, to somehow boost the algorithm. Okay? If it did used to work, it's not now. You're not gaming anything to the system. All right? But if you want to do that, go ahead. Like, I'll put stuff on Kavanaugh Media, and I'll like it personally, because I do like it, okay? So that's fine. But if you're trying to use your social media for evangelistic purposes, then this is where I would really say don't like your own content. In fact, don't ask your ministry partners and your friends to like your page or to like your post. This sets up multiple problems. So all of a sudden, you're running an ad, it's in whatever language, and then this English-sounding name of a person shows up in their profile on it. Okay, that just reinforces that the gospel is for foreigners or for Westerners. But even more importantly, it corrupts your data. You see, the algorithm is looking at every person that's engaging with that ad and that content. And when they engage with it, when they like it, or when they comment, or when they share, it's pulling in hundreds, if not thousands, of bits of data that they don't share with us as the marketers, because when they do, we tend to mess stuff up. All right, as soon as we figure out some little trick or whatever else, and we start going on something, we mess things up out there, and they fix that. So the algorithm is looking for what are these commonalities between all these people that are liking it. When your friends back in whatever your home country and host country there, outside of your host country, like your content or like your page, it's just corrupting the data that the algorithm is bringing into it. So I would really encourage you to not tell your prayer partners or your church or anybody else to be liking those things, to keep the data pure of those who you're trying to reach. Okay, this is the same reason why I would not encourage you to go run an ad in some other place where you can just build up a ton of social proof, a ton of likes. It used to work and it used to be fine if that's all you were trying to get, but that's not an important metric anymore. In some ways it's a vanity one of, we have 1 million people that like our page. Great, and you put out a post and 3 people comment on it. There's something out of proportion there, all right? We're trying to connect with people. We're trying to have online conversations that lead to offline conversations and conversions. Well, then let's keep the data pure when we do that, all right? So that's my advice. What I would say is don't like your own stuff, especially your evangelistic things, and ask your friends not to be liking them as well, all right? Next, you may be, if you're in Facebook world creating ads, jumping into Ads Manager, you may notice this block of text right at the top of your ad account when you're in there. It's basically saying, if this is too small for you to see on your screen, that starting May 5th, that everything that's happening on a domain that you have verified will show up. All right, so domain owners are going to see all the events and all the custom conversions. So if you have other people who have placed their picks on your site or whatever, you may see some of those ones. The key thing that popped out to me though here about this is just this idea of domain verification. And so I want to share my screen with you because this is something that if you've not done it yet, would really encourage you to do that. If you go to developers.facebook.com, you can type in there and search, or you can just go to Google and type in Facebook domain verification. All right, and you're going to see some of this information. What they're trying to do there is for you to show that you actually own the website that you're running ads to. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. You can add a DNS text entry. So this is in your CNAME records and you would go in there and do that. That's one way to do it. You can upload a file, an HTML file to your site, or you can add some metadata, a tag to the header portion of your website as well. I know that may sound like Greek no matter what thing I just said to you there, but it's really important to do it because this is going to continue to be a bigger thing, in my opinion at least, of verification. If you cannot verify who you are, if you cannot verify that you are actually a ministry when you say you are, or a business if you say you are, or whatever else, that they're going to start really clamping down. And this is not just Facebook. This is Google as well. This is all of these social media channels that are out there. They want real people to be using their services in ways that fit with their terms of service. And if you don't like that, if you think somehow that you're going to get around that, it's not going to happen. Facebook alone has shut down 16 billion fake accounts in just the last 3 or 4 years. And so this is all an ongoing process of them just trying to say that the people that are using the service are who they say they are. This is not let's find who the Christians are and kick them out, or the people who are, only vote for one political party or whatever else. You and I could look at that. We can debate about that. We can talk about that all day long. All I'm saying with this is that verification is who you say you are is who you have proven to them. And proving your domain is an important part of continuing having access to some of this pixel data and the work that you're doing. And so I would encourage you, do a little Google search. There's some training that we have done on this. So there's the podcast. We have talked about this on our Christian Media Marketing podcast. Look into it. You're going to see some of these reminders, and things are changing. So I hope that you will jump into that and just get that done. All right. What is the easiest one? Well, for me, it's actually been jumping into the CNAME record and just creating that little text line there. And there's a little bit of code that you put there, a thing that they will look for, and it just shows you have access. You own your website. Okay. And I think this is going to be really important in the future. So I just encourage you, please go ahead and do those processes that you need to do. All right. Last thing that I want to share with you all today is just this. This is the link to our website, to the very first step of talking with us, having a 30-minute Zoom call where we work with you to see if it's the right fit for a grant that the Jesus Film has given to us to help teams who are running ads and maybe are just needing some finances to help them with their ads. All right. It is not one where you have to hire us. Yes, as a business's mission, we're looking always to bring on teams, especially those who don't want to do the technical stuff and they just want to talk to people about Jesus. And honestly, I think that's a lot of teams that are out there. And so we'll work with them at what we think is a very affordable cost to do that. But this grant isn't tied just to that. Okay, you don't have to have us as a partner or a client to do that. But we do need to go through and explain it. There's really just 3 major criteria. The ads that you use would use video or content from the Jesus Film library. There's a lot of videos outside of just the Jesus Film itself that you could potentially use, hopefully in your language. Secondly, you commit that you're going to follow up on comments and messages and to people that are wanting to know more. And thirdly, we would love to just hear and see the data of how did it work and what did God do? And were there any interesting stories, any God stories that showed up from that? And so that's all they're asking for, and they're trying to help to that. Now, we're going to run out of funds probably here pretty soon. We've already had several come through that we have earmarked and said, okay, here you go. We know this is what you're doing and when you're looking to get started. So if this is something that you're interested in, then I would encourage you, just go to cavanaughmedia.com/let's go, and that can begin that process where we can talk with you. If those criteria, if you don't want to follow up, if you don't want to use Jesus Film ones, then you don't need to fill this out, okay? It's not the right fit. But if that sounds like something you might be interested in, if you're already running ads and you could use a little bit of ad money to help you with your outreach, reach out to us. Go to that web address, cavanaughmedia.com/let's go. All right, great. So let's go into our training now, and we're going to look at a continuation of Google Analytics. If you've not seen the first video that we recorded last week, I would encourage you to do that, to give you a 30-second summary. There's 2 different variations of Google Analytics out there right now. There's GA3 and GA4. GA3, if that's the one you already have signed up for analytics, it will have a UA dash and then a number. If you're using and you just start out with Google Analytics, you've just signed up, you'll just have a property number to it. You can have both. I have both on my Kavanaugh Media site because GA4 is different than the universal analytics of GA3. And the biggest area where it is different is in how it handles events when somebody does something on your website. Right? And so I want to encourage you to make sure that you go back and watch last week's episode, because we started to walk through first just where do you go to get signed up, analytics.google.com, but secondly, the differences that you're going to see. And so we're going to jump back into that today, look at a few more areas of overlap and of differences for you, specifically for you to use in your ministry. If you're running ads or you're spending money to create a website, you want to know that people are actually coming to it and what are they doing on your site. And so to me, analytics and this data is extremely important. It's extremely important, okay? And so let's jump into that. We're going to be using Google Data's, their demo data that they have created. So this is live data from Google, from their merchandise store, all right? And what you're looking at here is Google Analytics 3. This is the home screen of GA3. Here is the home screen of GA4. And so you'll notice it looks a little bit different here, doesn't it? It is a different type of look to it. And I like it. There's a lot of data here. Okay, there's a lot on this screen. I get that. All right, if I can make this bigger, and you can see just how much stuff is on here, just on that home screen. Okay, but the information itself could feel like it's overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. If you start to look at it and you understand the different parts to it, then it's going to make sense. So this is the home of the Google Analytics 4. You're noticing immediately here this number, this 108. This is how many users in the last 30 minutes. And now this is where they're coming from. Last week we talked about insights. This is giving you all sorts of machine learning. This is last 7 days. How many users? How many of them have been new? What's their average engagement time? All right. And then there's a lot of other stuff on here. What campaigns are you running? Where are people coming from? What are they? What referrals? Are they coming from social media, from Google? How active are they? So there's so much here. All right, there's just so much information. When you go over to GA3, it's a little simpler. The initial home page. Users, it's showing revenue here, which probably you wouldn't have unless this is your nonprofit and you're doing something. Your conversion rate here relates to your goals that you set up, and then how many sessions, how many times have they gone on there. And even that is looked at in a different way in GA3. Some of the same information is here. Where are you acquiring people from? What countries? What times of day? Right? And so pages. If you do nothing else but look at just the home pages, there's a tremendous amount of value for your ministry. How many people are coming? How many of them are doing something on your site if you're using GA3? This is right now active users, real time, versus last 30 minutes, which I kind of like the last 30 minutes one, to be honest with you. Here's another one right over here. How many people are coming to your website from desktop, from mobile, from a tablet? Here's something that I'm finding, especially for those of you who are doing Christian media outreach and evangelism overseas. The mobile tends to be over 90% on almost every page. So make sure that your site is mobile friendly. All right. So last week we looked at real time and just a little bit about what is going on there. Here's the GA3 real time. You can see where people are. I find this fascinating. I find it as an area of prayer for me. Here in GA4, when I click real time, here is a map showing it. Once again, I just think GA4 looks good. I like what I'm seeing here. And where are they coming from? All sorts of users, what pages, what are they doing? Once again, this is the event area. And then conversions are not them accepting Christ. This is them doing something, a goal that you set up on your site. Okay, and so this is all of the real time there, but there's more to this. And let's jump in. We'll go back to GA3, and I'm going to click out of real time. And the first one on this side of these reports is your audience. Who's coming to your site? Now, in GA3, it's showing you such information, language, but the demographic stuff, some of this isn't showing up in their demo account as much. But you can see what's kind of happening. You're looking for how many page views, how many different ones, how many sessions, how many pages per session. When you get into GA4, then you need to go look over here in different areas to do that. So we're looking on the audience right here. If you go into GA4, well, I'm looking. I don't see audiences right down here. All right, now this is something different to configure. And so these are different types of ones that are shown up. So that's not going to be the same. Well, we're really looking at the user. And so when I click here, here's a lot of that same information that's popping up versus this one. So this one's going to say audience. Over here, you're looking at some of the demographics. If you jump into demographic details, they're not collecting that. It doesn't look like in their demo site as far as some of like the age or some of that kind of stuff. At least not that I've noticed yet. All right, but here's information about it. How many people, their engagement rate, how much time are they spending on their site? So people in the United States are spending 2 minutes and 28 seconds on average. This is how many events. A ton of people are coming to that US site. Over here, well, there's just not as much information down in here. It is showing some of it. So there's some overlap, but not exactly the same. All right. And so when you look in, you can click here. This is GA3. When I click on United States, then I can begin to get some of that data to pop up. California seems to be a big place for it. And then there's bounce rate, how many people go to a page and then they're leaving from that page. All right, so there's a lot of information. Both of these are great for you to really dial down where are people coming from, what's bringing them there, what are they doing on your site. On GA3, I'm looking at browsers and all sorts of stuff. So Chrome is the biggest one there for them. All right, Safari is next. And each of those can bring information. Well, here, I'm not seeing that on that one. Let me go over here to the overview of these demographics. No, see, there's nothing for age, but there is language. There's country, some of this stuff as we're coming into it. Well, here I'm going to click on tech. And here is where I will get that information. Chrome, Safari, all of that. All right, so a lot of the information is the same, but they're putting it in different places between GA4 and GA3. All right, so that's that part of it. Let's go back over to GA3, and we're going to look at, click out of this one, where are we getting people? So this is acquisition. And when you click on overview, you can see directly coming to their site, paid search, display networks, all right, referrals, lots of different information there. If you look down here, if you click on social, it's not going to show anything. They're not running any social ads. They're not going to show Facebook, all right, on that one. So Google's just not doing on that one. But if you do Google ads, well, let's see. Is there any Google ads going to their store? Yep, a little bit. And so you could see on that, you can see what campaigns they're running. You can see what keywords are working best to drive traffic to your site. You can see from this, when you're running Google ads, here's some of these phrases. So people are searching for, that's bringing them to the Google merchandise store. All right, so that's all really good information. If people are searching to come to your evangelistic site, they're telling you what they're looking for. That's valuable information. All right, so this is where all of this acquisition can be really informative. It can really tell us a lot about them. When we come over here to GA4, it's under acquisition. And we're going to click here. And here's our information that we have. Boy, that looks different, doesn't it? A lot of different things that are going on that are missing at this point. This is one where I feel like GA3 is doing a little bit better. At least as I've dived into it and have been using it, you know, I'm not necessarily seeing all the same type of information to it. Now, I can see about engagement and some of that here in a little bit. I can see over here on e-commerce to it. I can see even retention, what's happening to people, all right? But I'm not necessarily seeing all of the same things that I'm seeing in the same screen that's called acquisition there, all right? So this is some of those differences that you're going to need to play with. But it's important. Same thing with behavior. Here's Google Analytics 3, and we're looking at what pages, where people go to. I like this one right here. It's called Site Search. What are people searching for on your website? They're telling you what kind of content. Now, there's not a lot here, right? So they're searching for gopher. I don't know what that means, but That's something they're searching for. That's GA3. Look at this. GA3, your site speed. It's going to tell you how your website's doing with different browsers, with different speed that's taking place. I'll slide over here. The load time for that, all of that is showing up. Make it even a little bit bigger for you. You see that it's taking 2.18 seconds to load in Firefox. Safari is taking longer to load. So this is able to show you a lot of the information about how fast your website is. And are people having to wait a long time? This is why you don't embed videos and put videos right on your website. You will link to them because those will be massively slow on your website. Well, this is all a part of your site speed. How fast is your church or evangelistic or ministry website? That's under behavior. I'm coming over here. Well, where would that maybe be at? Tech details? You see, this is part of that stuff that's been kind of frustrating to me, is that I'm not always seeing everything in the same way. They're doing it in different types of things. Demographics, no. So that's different. GA4 is doing awesome for events. This is just great. How many people are clicking, who are watching videos, who are watching it to the end. All of that information is great. Some of this other stuff is just not there yet that I'm seeing in GA3. All right. And so, yes, events are really powerful. And this is a big part of what I like about GA4. But GA3 is still missing having other information that you may want. Okay, I do want to come back to one other thing as we wrap up here today, and that is down here in some of this analysis and some of these audiences, when you click on Explore under GA4, it's going to bring you up to this really interesting tool. And this is, there are templates. And so if you click on that, there's ones that are already made, and there are ways to help you begin to understand what's happening on your site. Well, if we come in here to this analysis hub, then we could, it's showing this one right here that Kavanaugh Media did here just a few minutes ago on their store. And so I'm going to click on it. And now this is going to show what is happening when you think of a funnel, when they first go to your site to when they're doing something to what they're doing on your site. All of that, desktop, mobile, tablet, all of these dimensions that are right here are ones that you can add right over here. So if I wanted to compare, and I wanted to compare the United States, and then I wanted to pay, or let's do this, I'll get that one out. Let's compare direct traffic to paid traffic. All right, and so when you put those in, then it's going to build this out, and it's going to give you a comparison. Which one's doing better? Well, direct traffic's doing better versus paid traffic on this one, right? And so this is just a really, I love it. This is where the power of analytics come into it, is because they give you so much that you can jump into, that you can change here. You can change your steps. So let's say you have your landing page and then a Bible download page and then an exit event, a click that would have them leaving your site to maybe go to YouVersion or whatever. You could set these steps up to be able to see what's happening on your site. All right, and so there's a lot there. There's so much there that we're just meaning on this one to do just a broad overview of your site. All right, so here's what I would encourage you to do. If you've never gotten into it at all, it doesn't collect data until you sign up and you get it installed on your site. And then let it to start to collect. If you're running ads, I want to encourage you to be looking at your analytics from Google, from your website as well. They're not always going to match to what Facebook says. All right, there's a lot of reasons to that. Don't be freaked out by it. But get it installed on your site and begin to collect data and begin to play with it to get an idea about what's happening when people click on an ad and come to your site. But here's a few other things. Look for things that show what their intent is. What pages are they spending a lot of time on? Are there subjects that they're searching for a lot? They're giving you information about who they are. And this is really important for the media that we use in our ads. All right, is there places that people are going to and then they're leaving from a lot? Is there a page that's taking too long to load? So all of this information to me is extremely important. I would encourage you to dive into it and look at how many people are scrolling to the bottom of your page. That's where your invitation might be. Well, if nobody's scrolling to the bottom, push your buttons up to the top and experiment. Move different things on your site. This is where we're beginning to see, by using small little devotional content under a picture, we're getting better clicks. When we have embedded questions that pop up at the end of a video, we're getting more clicks. This is where analytics are going to help you. And I hope that you'll dive into that and really begin to explore. Just press buttons. You can't mess anything up, and you may discover amazing amounts of information that you had no idea of what was taking place on your site. All right, so that's going to finish up our training for today. I just want to give you a heads up about where we're going. Next week, Lord willing, I'm going to create live a Facebook ad campaign. And it's going to be one that we're using currently around the world. And I'm going to dive into it and start to show in more detail some real specifics about creating a Facebook ad campaign. I'm going to do a real one that we're wanting to create. All right, and so we have overviewed Facebook, we have overviewed Instagram and Google Ads and Google Analytics. Now we can start to dive in and really go into some details of doing that. So if you have Facebook ad specific questions you would like for me to address on the show, make sure you reach out to us if at all possible. And if you would, subscribe to this, like our Kavanaugh Media page, follow the YouTube page of GMPI or us, subscribe to the podcast. Would you do that? We're almost 4,400 people listening to that podcast. It's about 15 minutes long or so. It's where I really put a lot of the things that are changing out there, and we're quickly approaching our 100th episode. I thank God for that. I thank God as well for all of you who are making His Son famous, who are experimenting, who are iterating, who are pushing, trying to figure out what's working, and let's do more of those kind of things together. If we can help you, if you need help with the ad grant, go to the link that you see right there. If you have questions, if we can help you, we want to help. That's why we exist. Until next time then, we are praying for you. You are not alone in this battle. You are part of a broad group who is leveraging technology and media to make Jesus famous. Let's keep going and let's keep pushing. Thanks so much for watching. Take care and God bless.